Today I'm going to show you ControlNet and how to take an image like this and turn it into this and this and this and this. This is going to be a ControlNet tutorial in ComfyUI. Let's get started. Whoop. Well, I tried doing 100 sit-ups, but I failed because my stomach couldn't take that abuse. So this is what you see when you start up Comfy, right? And this is no ControlNet here. So I'm going to show you how to create one from scratch. And I'm also going to show you how to get more advanced workflow like this. And this I have just downloaded. This is available for my Patreon subscribers. If you want this, you don't need this, but I'll show you how to make it. So if you want it easier, if you just want to download and get started, available on Patreon. Now, once you download a ControlNet workflow, either if it's this one or another one, you're probably going to see an error like this. So you have following node types that were not found. That means you need to go into your manager here. And if you don't have the manager, you can find my how to install Comfy guide in the comments or up here somewhere. That's going to guide you how to get Comfy running. Press that, and you're going to go into install missing custom nodes, and all the missing nodes are going to be here. You can see I only have this one, so I'm just going to press install here, and then it's whenever that's finished, you're going to get a little restart button down here, and this is what happened for me. Now you're probably going to have more here, so make sure that you select all of these and then press install. We are restarting, and once that is finished, you can see also in the terminal the status of that. So here's stuff going on, right? Whenever that's finished, this little thing is going to be removed, and now it's done. But Seb, what about these? They're still red. Yes, you actually need to refresh the browser window as well. And now you can see that all of our nodes look fine. If they don't, make sure to, again, check your manager, make sure everything is, you can press update here, update all, update Comfy, recheck, install missing custom nodes, and restart your Comfy again. There is some other things we're going to install as well. So we're going to go into here, install models. We're going to search for ControlNet, and we're going to check here both the type and the base. We want the type to say ControlNet and the base to say 1.5. So we have a lot of these. Now they are about 700 megabytes each. I'm going to download the Canny. I'm going to download the line art, the open pose, the scribble, soft edge, probably anime line art, and the tile as well. Now those are fairly big, like I said, so get the ones that you feel that you need. But if you have the space, you know, just get the same ones that I do. Just make sure that whenever you install one, you scroll down again and recheck that there is ControlNet and SD 1.5. Now you might be asking, well, aren't there ControlNets for SDXL and other models? Yes, there are. There are some SDX ControlNets. You can download them and use them if you want to. I do prefer using ControlNet for Stable Diffusion 1.5 models because those ControlNets are in general a little better, but that might change over time. Now I got a lot of these installed now. You can see in the green one here, I got the Canny, the depth, the line art, open post, scribble, soft edge, the anime line art, and the tile. To apply this, we're just going to press close here, and then if we press refresh here, we're going to be able to see them in our load ControlNet nodes here. So Canny here, for example, this is the one I downloaded. I have multiple, so I have a PTH or a safe tensors. If you're downloading from the manager, you're probably going to have the safe tensors, but if you have a PTH that you downloaded from Hugging Face, it doesn't matter, that's fine too. But for this tutorial, we're going to use the safe tensors that we downloaded from the manager. We're also going to be downloading this QR code monster model, and it's available in the description. Just get this one, QR code monster V2. If you can't find the V2, you might be over here. You gotta find the QR code monster for SD15 here. You go into files and versions, and then you gotta go into this little folder here that says V2. And there you have it. Go into your Comfy folder, models, ControlNet, and just put that right in there. Now, if you're using my workflow, you should have it running by now. And what's happening here is that you have an input. So this is going to be your input image. Now, right now we have this man here, and we also have the prompt, old man close-up portrait, linen shirt, black background. And this is what we want to see, not what we're actually seeing. This image, we're then setting a size here, 768 by 768. We're then loading a checkpoint. So this is a model. This is not a ControlNet model, but a regular Stable Diffusion model. You can get these from Civita or any other model site. Now, if you don't have this VAE here, you actually need to go into the manager again, install models, search for 840, just install that like we did with the ControlNet models. We have two nodes that load a LoRa here. Now they are disabled by default. You can either press Control B or right click and click bypass to enable or disable them. Bear in mind you need to download LoRa models to use for that. Those go into the models LoRa folder. We're not going to dig into LoRa's for this tutorial, so these are only available here if you know what they are and want to use them. So what's happening here now, we have loaded an image, we have this old man here, we have the size set, which was set by default. We have the prompt, so that's what our image is going to look like. And then we have a lot of nodes here, the blue ones here, which are different control nets, and they tie into the output here. So this is the end result, or this is where the generation gets done. So if I would press Q prompt here now, I would get an image of an old man. And it might or it might not resemble our input image. As you can see, we have some lines here from the glasses, but they're not really looking like the input that we had. And that's because that the control nets that we are using now, and as you can see, all these are in low opacity and purple, so they are disabled. It's only this control net that's enabled, and this is using a canny control net, and it's applying that with a strength of 0.5. The strength is usually set between 0 and 1. So if we change this to 1, and then we have a start percentage and an end percentage. This is where the control net starts and ends. So think of this as a slider between 0 and 1. So we're going to start at 0, that's the first frame, and then we're going to end at 1, which is the last frame. So now we're going to run the control net high strength for the full duration. Now if you press Q prompt again, you will see that our image more closely resembles our input. Now the glasses are full. Now we haven't really delved into what these control nets do yet, so let's start looking at what's happening here. First off, all these nodes can easily be enabled and disabled by pressing the little bypasser here. And that's possible for all of these control nets. So now they're all disabled. So if we would press Q prompt here now, we are not getting an image that resembles this one here. So we could say mid shot. We'll actually remove close up, old man mid shot. And you can see it's now a mid shot. So it doesn't take into account this image anymore because we have disabled all of our control nets. So if we enable a control net here, let's say this one, line art, soft edge, canny, now they're enabled again. And even though we are still having mid shot in the prompt, it's forcing our control net image into our result. And that's really what we're looking for with control nets. It's all about finding how much of these control nets you want forced into your image. Now let's look at what all these control nets actually do. Let's take a different image. Let's take this ballerina here with her hands behind her head. We're going to ignore the prompt right now. We're just going to leave it at the old man, mid shot, linen shirt. Now if we double click, we can type here and we can add a node, and we want the preview image. So the preview image is, well, it's going to preview an image, and we want to see what all these control nets are actually doing to your image. So what you can do is you can take a preprocessor. So in control nets, stay with me, there are three parts. So you're loading a control net model, you're loading a preprocessor, and you're applying your control net. So we're loading a control net model line art, we're applying a line art preprocessor. So the preprocessor takes our input image and turns it into an image that control net can understand, and then it applies that control net onto our image. Now let me show you what that is. We're just going to press Q prompt here, and as you can see here, our line art preprocessor has turned our image over here into this. And this is different for each control net, right? So if we add some more previews here, let's just drop them in and we can check, okay, what does the soft edge look like? We can take the preprocessor here of soft edge, connect that there. We can take the canny, the preprocessor, connect that there. Let's check the depth, we can connect that there. We need to enable this. Let's also check the open pose, because that's pretty cool. So the preprocessor is always under the load ControlNet here in this workflow. So if you generate this again now, or qprompt, we can see a lot of other ControlNet preprocessors. So we have this soft edge here, which kind of gives you soft edges of the image. We have the canny, which gives us detailed lines of the input. We have the open pose, which is one of my favorites. It's actually seeing the pose of the image without forcing anything else on the image. So this is kind of cool, because if you have a skinny character and wants to turn it into a fat character or vice versa, it's not going to be constrained by the body proportions. It can just see the limbs of the character, which is very cool. And we have a depth map here. So this is what happens inside of the ControlNet, right? So it takes your input image, applies a ControlNet preprocessor, and then from that image, it applies the ControlNet to your image. Now we enable a lot of ControlNets here, and we have this woman, we have a prompt that says old man mid shot. But if we look at our result here, we can see this is not an old man, it just looks like our input image. That's because our ControlNets are too strong here, right? So let's start by disabling here our ControlNets. So we have no ControlNets enabled now. Let's enable the open pose. We have an open pose. It is applying a 0.9 strength, so that's fairly high, and an N% of 0.95. That's fairly high as well. We can just run this for 100%. Now it's going to retain the pose of our input image, but nothing else, which means that it's not constrained by the lines or anything. So our old man here getting us the same pose as the woman. Now, if we feel the open pose is not enough and we want to retain parts of the input, we can enable something else. We can enable the depth here, for example. We can generate again. We can see that our character now is starting to resemble our input. So you need to play with the values here and raise or lower the different ControlNets. That was an added bonus. I've put in an upscaler here. So if you want an image upscale, you can just enable this here. It's using the tile model, so you need to download that if you didn't do that. It's also using an upscale model. If you want to download one of the upscalers, just go into Manager, install models, search for upscale, and here you have a bunch to choose from. Now, if you're downloading workflow sometimes and your load ControlNet model is turning red or purple around the edges, but you know that you have downloaded that specific model, you just need to re-click this and reselect the model. It could be that the workflow creator has a different name for their model, or that it's a safe tensors, or it's a PTH, or a CKPT, which is checkpoint, but just go in and reselect the model. Now, one more thing when it comes to these ControlNets, right? We talked about loading it, we talked about a little bit about the preprocessor, and we talked about applying it. Now, for each of the preprocessors, there are settings. And we're not going to dig deep into all the settings, but one of them that's available in most preprocessors is the resolution. So if we, for example, let's drag and drop a couple of preprocessors here of Canny. I'm just copy pasting these from this one, and then we're going to load a preview image again. I'm copy pasting these, like connecting them, and I'm changing. Let's lower the resolution here. Let's have one low, one mid, and one high. I'm using the anything everywhere nodes, which means I don't have to connect an image here. As you can see, this is glowing, so it has an input. But if you are not using this, or if you're using another workflow, you need to connect a Fiumara image here into your images down here. But as you can see, it's not required for me. Now, if I would run this, you can see here now that even though all of these preprocessors are canny, they are of different resolution, and that's going to affect your image, right? So if you use this one with a resolution of 128, you're going to be able to see these kind of pixels in your image if you are using a more high-res image. In this 512 one, we can see it's a little better. In the 1024, our lines are even smoother. Just bear in mind, it's also going to change what's going on in your image. So here you can see in the lower resolution one, we're actually getting more face detail. But this can also be changed with the low and the high threshold. So let's change the low threshold on the high resolution one. And you can see that we're getting some more detail into back into the image. But that can be a good way to check what's going on if you feel that you aren't getting the results that you are looking for. Let's remove these again. Now, if you just want to create a good looking image, enable the line art, enable the soft edge, start asking for what you want. Man in tropical jungle, safari clothing. I'm going to lower the strength here a little bit. There you have it. It's kind of too strongly resembling our input. So let's disable the line art. I'm going to lower the soft edge here a little bit. I'm going to enable the open pose instead. Let's try again. Oh, maybe too strong still. Let's lower here the open pose and lower the ControlNet. We're getting closer, but it's still kind of giving us these non-clothing vibes. So if we disable the edges here, now we're just using an open pose, for example. And why we're getting those results previously is, as you can see in this image, the lines here on the clothes or the body is so tight that it has no room for any clothing, basically. That's when why you don't want to have too much on your ControlNet there. Oh, and just as a reminder, if you are using upscaler, it's going to take a very long time since it's a tile upscaler. Let's load a default workflow here. I'm just going to show you if you want to create a ControlNet workflow of your own. We're going to just move these here from the K sampler and forward, and we're going to load 3 nodes. We're going to have a load ControlNet. You can also right click, add node, and find the ones that you want. We're going to apply a ControlNet preprocessor, and this depends on what kind of model we want to load. So let's say, for example, that we want to use the depth, then we need to search for depth here. Let's pick here minus depth map, and then we're going to apply ControlNet advanced. We're going to connect to the ControlNet here, the image here. We're going to take from our prompt the positive into the positive and the negative here into the negative. How do you know what's positive and negative? Well, most of the time it's the positive on the top and the negative on the bottom, but it kind of depends on how you connect them. So if you connect this one to the positive, that's going to become the positive. And then we're going to go from the ControlNet positive to positive, negative to negative. And then we need to load an image into this. So we're going to load image. We're going to connect that there. We're going to drop an image into this. I'm going to drop this robot character in here, and let's say woman android close-up portrait biomechanical. And if we generate this now, we will get an image that resembles our inputs. Now, depending on the ControlNet you load, it's well, it's going to be different because there are so many ControlNets, there are so many preprocessors you can use, and there are so many values of strength that you can use for your image. But that should cover the basics of how to use ControlNet. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.